For the record, my name is Tania Fernandez Anderson, the District 7 City Councilor. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. This public testimony is being recorded. It is not being broadcasted, right? But it is being recorded for your record. This public testimony is on the budget for FY24. If you'd like to testify, please sign your name at the sign-in sheet up front on the table. Also, if you are too shy to testify today, feel free to email your testimony to our website. You can visit boston.gov/council-budget. Or email your written testimony to committee@ccc.wm@boston.gov at any time. You may also submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council's budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Our budget hearings have been on dockets 0760 to 0762, orders for the FY24 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations for the school department and for the other post-employment benefits, OPEB, docket 0763, 0765 to 0766, orders for the capital fund transfer appropriations, docket 0764, 0767, 0768, orders for the capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements. Our focus area today, obviously, it's public testimony regarding FY24 budget. I am joined by my councilor colleagues, Councilor at Large Julia Mejia, Councilor at Large Ruzi Louisiane, District 5, District 6, Councilor, by order of arrival, Councilor Lara, District 4, Councilor Worrell, and District 2, Council President Flynn. As I mentioned, the format is not as rigid. I would like it to be a conversation, easy flowing, so you will have 2 minutes, hoping 2 minutes, but I only have about a dozen people that signed up thus far, so I will allow about 3 to 5 minutes for your testimony, and we'll figure out in terms of how much time we have to work with. If it's okay with you, I wanted to just review the amendment process for you today. I thought it'd be a good idea to just get us all on the same page. Just trying to find a copy so I can follow it because I can't see, even though I should be able to see. Nicole, are you close by? Oh, thank you. She's okay. Maybe I can just get your big heads out the way. All right, your little head. Okay. Thank you. Same. Sorry. All right. I'm going to just try to do it. So, City Council amendment powers. Next slide. Yeah, I can barely see it. City Council Charter, Section 48. You can read here for yourself, but just for the first line, City of Boston shall hold budgetary powers together with the power to modify in whole or in part an appropriation order or an item with an appropriation order, amend the budget for Boston Public Schools, consistent with the Acts of 1936, Chapter 224, Section 2, amended by Acts of 1986, Section 701, Chapter 701, Section 5, and further amended by Acts of 1987, Chapter 613, Section 2 of Section 75 of this charter, clarify budgetary procedures, and take such other actions as are necessary to amend, approve, or disapprove the annual budget of the city, accepting the powers to originate an appropriation order which shall be reserved for the mayor. Next slide. What types of amendment can the council use to modify the budget? The council can amend between appropriations, categories of the tax order, and within. For example, council can reduce the Public Works Personnel Services line and increase the Public Works Contractual Services line. Council cannot tell the administration how or where to execute the funds within a modification. Example, council can increase the budget for Hokies by 2 FTs, full-time employees, by reducing the budget for 2 engineers, but cannot specify where those Hokies are meant to be based. Next slide. Responsibilities of the council. Purpose of the amendment should be an appropriate use of operating funds. Operating funds support the ongoing department operational and programmatic costs within the legal, procurement, and personal policies of the city, and can be executed within the 12-month period of the fiscal year. Also, responsibilities of the council: balance budget. To ensure that the budget amended by the city council does not exceed the mayor's proposed budget, city council must identify reductions equal to the value of proposed amendments. Other responsibility also includes council's amended draft will include an updated tax order worksheet, but the attendant committee report will specify the intent of the council's amendments. Next slide. Mayoral and council budgetary powers. Charter amendment: the mayor and the city council shall have the power to modify in whole or in part an appropriation order or an item within an appropriation order. Due to this text, the council requires additional information on the legal reasoning for executive directive power to trump the council's budgetary ones. Next slide. How do we ensure that amendments are in compliance with procurement law? Procurement law generally requires competitive bidding. Amendments and the tax order cannot specify or name an organization to be awarded a contract or grant funds. If the city council amends the budget to expand funding for an existing city service, additional funds may not be awarded to the current contractor or contractors, or guarantees to the department must still comply with legal requirements relating to the procurement of services. Next slide. What is the administration's role in spending funds once the budget is approved? Under the supervision of the mayor, department heads have authority to spend funds in a manner consistent with appropriation, other applicable laws, and city HR and/or procurement processes. Quasi-independent authorities, example BPS or BPHC, have their own legal authority to spend the city appropriations. Therefore, the city council can only decrease the overall appropriation for quasi-independent authorities. Next slide. Thank you. I'm going to open up for testimony, because there may be questions related to this presentation in terms of the amendment process, or I'm happy to go straight to the capital presentation. If you guys have all reviewed it and it seems like this crowd is pretty involved, engaged. We can go straight to the public testimony part. Should we take a vote? Okay. Capital presentation, raise your hand. Straight to testimony, raise your hand. All right, let's go. The microphone is here on our right, and the first person on the list is just Christian from Roxbury. Christian, when you get to the mic, please state your name, affiliation, or residence, and give your testimony.
Hello, my name is Christian, and I'm from Roxbury, as said. I demanded, well, $115 million last time at Friday? Last Thursday. And, well, I didn't really get an answer, but I think why we should do this is because there's other things like mental health and housing that needs more money. For example, I'll use the same example. The mental health investments, the mental health response made by the community members asked to divest $2.6 million and invest it into the community mental health crisis response. This helps the community and basically, basically it helps the community in a way that some police can't. And they'll be trained to do these things, and sometimes it's not enough, and police might escalate it. Finally, I have a question for you. It's the same question, but I got like half answer. What's the deal with the 81 million in the collective bargaining laying around, and how much is there for the police?
Thank you, Christian. I'd like to acknowledge that we've been, pardon me, Christian, I'd like to acknowledge that we've been joined in the crowd by Rep. Worrell. Thank you so much for joining us and being here. As far as your question is directly and specific to BPD, I'm going to ask my colleagues if they feel that they want to engage. Please raise your hand or call on to me, and feel free to answer. But we did invite the department heads to be here, and as you can see, we're here for you. It's just we're listening and we're taking notes, and we are videotaping, and we're happy to provide you with a copy, and we're going to follow up with that department.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next we have Mallory. And Mallory, I don't want to butcher your last name, Mallory.
Honora.
How do you say it?
Honora.
Honora. I knew that.
Okay, you have to stand. Okay. You gonna read yours too? Okay. Good evening. Thank you for your patience. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, you can stay right with me, okay? Good evening. My name is Mallory, and this is Jakai. And this is Keone. And we're with Families for Justice as Healing and the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. Our mission is to end the incarceration of women and girls. Our work is led by incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, and directly impacted women. We do policy and litigation work. We lead a statewide campaign to stop the new $50 million women's prison, release women from MCI Framingham, and pass a jail and prison construction moratorium. And the heart of our work is hyper-local organizing called Reimagining Communities, led by my co-director, Sashi James. Reimagining Communities is about shifting power and resources to create healing, well-being, and thriving communities. The mayor's FY24 budget does not align with our vision of investing in community-led processes and community-driven solutions. AFJA and the National Council serve on the steering committee of the Better Budget Alliance. We were part of the beautiful grassroots organizing campaign that so many people in this room were also part of that passed Yes on One and established a legal mandate for participatory budgeting in Boston. Participatory budgeting is a pillar of our Reimagining Communities framework because this public process creates more pathways to address structural racism, income inequality, and the economic devastations that generations of disproportionate policing and incarceration have caused in Black communities. Participatory budgeting allows people to collectively process challenges in their district and put real dollars into collectively chosen solutions. Hey, we gotta help the people, right? We're here together for our community. Let's be patient, okay? I know. Do you want to touch it one time? Thank you. All done. Now it's my turn, okay? Thank you. Thank you for your patience. It's hard to afford childcare during the daytime, let alone at nighttime. We consistently told members of the Wu administration that based on research on participatory processes from all over the world, that the most important predictor, you can do it again when I'm done, thank you. The most important predictor of success was meaningful funding. So we asked for 1% of the city budget or $40 million. We said, let's learn from participatory budgeting processes in New York, Chicago, Paris, and more. We were scoffed at and asked, this part's really important, okay? I know. Wait, do you want to sit with Counselor Lara for 1 second? Look it, can you draw?
There we go.
Yeah, Mommy's right here. I'm a new mom and I'm just learning how to do this, but this part is really important to me. So all these times we showed up and we said, look, people are not going to want to come to a process where they're not going to get to distribute real money. That's what we said over and over and over again, and not just because it was our opinion or our feeling or because all of our neighbors and all of our members were telling us this, and when we were on the doors, this was the #1 concern that came up. But we learned it from participatory budgeting processes all over the world, that this was the way to get people involved in the process, to put real meaningful money in the people's hands. So we were told, we were scoffed at, frankly. We were asked where that money could possibly come from. So imagine what it felt like after all of that, months and months of meetings with the administration, to see the recommended budget come out with a predicted $274 million increase in revenue and a $10 million increase in the police budget. So to be clear, the proposal for participatory budgeting, Kiki, come on over here, office is level funding at $2 million. Which includes money for staff and the entire pot of money to be distributed. So that's $2 million to run the office and the amount of money that that the community would get the opportunity to distribute. The police were given 5 times that much money as an increase to their $395 million budget. So I would like to ask OBM where they got the money for that increase. There is always more money for policing, yet when residents come together year after year after year after year after year with a clear demand, we're told no, not now, there's not enough for you. For years, we've repeatedly testified before the Boston City Council and demonstrated outside of City Hall about the need to redirect resources away from systems that cause further harm. We've demanded significant investment into the community. The demand has been consistent regardless of the framing, be it 10% of the police budget or 1% of the overall budget. The message has been, let communities decide how to spend a meaningful portion of the people's tax dollars to address the people's deepest needs. The demand for the people's budget has gone unanswered, yet the people persist. So here we are again in solidarity with our community members and our sister organizations saying, let this be the moment that we listen to the people and respect residents enough to fully fund participatory budgeting. We refuse to operate in a, okay, that's okay. We refuse to operate in an austerity mindset where community comes last. If city revenue has rebounded by hundreds of millions of dollars, and there are tens of millions of dollars in reserve for police contract negotiations, on top of the BPD's $395 million, they're getting a $10 million increase. Why can't the city at least match that for participatory budgeting? What do community solutions look like? What else could we be funding? We at FJA and the National Council have a community EMT course. They're trying to find a way to be heard regardless, I guess. We have a CDL license training program where we're funding community members to not just pay for the CDL, but to pay them to go through the process to get the CDL, our formerly incarcerated brothers and sisters. We run a community pantry. We have a hydroponic farm and a basic income program, and I want to shout out all the organizations that are led by formerly incarcerated people, including New Beginnings Reentry Services, which I'm sure would love funding, is another community-based solution. We count on Justice for Housing to house our people coming home from jail and prison, also would be a worthy source of funding, and so many more, as well as our siblings in the room that have created community crisis response that are also asking for $2.5 million. So we know giving residents, especially Black and brown community members, the power and a people-led process to both imagine solutions. Mama. Can you say more playgrounds, less police? Please. Yeah, okay. Meanwhile, the BPD, okay, honey, I'm really sorry, y'all. I know, I just need you to work with me for a second. Anyway, the BPD gang unit is terrorizing neighborhoods and is under investigation by the Attorney General's office, and that includes all the members of our participatory defense that come every Tuesday, my kids' uncles, that have been in court recently because of harassment. And then we still haven't figured out the overtime spending and salary work that's double spent. So we're just asking, who should get more money this year? Participatory budgeting is essential to making meaningful change in Boston. It's also the law. We made it the law. We should meaningfully fund it. We still wanted to see, anyways, I think I've made my point, and I'm happy to email all of my comments. And I just want to say that I know that the counselors here in particular have heard us say this again and again, and I just particularly want to thank you, Counselor Fernandez-Anderson, for listening and being part of the process and trying to be a bridge to explain where we're coming from and like really being on the ground to be as solution-oriented and as imaginative as we can be. And it was hurtful to have those conversations with the administration be cut short when an ordinance was filed preemptively before we'd reach the end of those conversations. It was filed after end of y'all legislative session, 2 weeks before Christmas, and put us in a position to be rushed, and yet again, to have a budget that comes out that just wasn't listening to what we've been asking for. So I know my children are wild and are making a lot of noise, but it really meant a lot to FJA and the National Council to come out and say for many years in a row, like, please, this is the moment to really try to do something differently, and we're so tired of being patronized and say, where can we possibly get this money? But we look around and there's always room to fund what we know is causing further harm. So thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And thank you, Counselor Lara, a fellow mom, just trying to figure it out. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. I apologize to my council colleagues. Thank you, Mallory, so much for that wonderful testimony. I did not ask if you guys wanted to give an opening statement. You have 30 seconds each if you'd like to do that, an introduction or just an opening statement. Starting with Councilor Mejia.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here. Even East Boston trucked over, and we really do appreciate you all showing up. And recognizing that this is the moment for us to really listen, take notes, and actually go back to the council and do the people's job. I've always said it since 2020, this wasn't the mayor's budget, this was the people's budget. And that is what this moment is all about. So I'm happy to be here. I did advise some of the organizers that I had another commitment. I was trying to figure out which one I was going to go to first, so I came here thinking that this would be ready to go. I'm going to try to stay here as long as I need to, but trust that the tape is here rolling, and my staff is taking notes. So I just want you all to know I'm here for you as always, and really do appreciate you all showing up, because showing up is half the battle. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Ruth Louisiana at-large City Councilor. Just happy to be here to be listening to public testimony from the community. There's a lot of things going on in the City Council, and so do want to make sure that the budget remains a priority. I want to thank Councilor Fanny Ann Anderson for her leadership. This is our budget, which reflects what we care about and what we value here in the city. So hearing from you is of utmost importance, and so I appreciate everyone for coming out on a Tuesday, Wednesday evening, and to continue to reach out to us and email us to make sure that we hear and implement and incorporate your priorities. This power that we have to amend the budget was one that community fought for and won, and so it's one that we should lean into and use. And so I'm here to listen and thank everyone for showing up. Thank you. Oh, and like Councilor Me here, I also have another commitment, but going to stay here as long as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you everyone who's attending this hearing today. And I'd like to say that for every question, the community has a solution, and this is what this is about. So I'm here to listen, here to take notes, and to bring your solutions back to make the amendments in the budget. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm City Council President Ed Flynn. Honored to be here with my City Council colleagues, and I'm here to listen. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kendra Lara, and I am the District 6 City Councilor. The budget process is one that the city budget process in particular, is a process that I have been involved in since I was 15, and I've been coming to the Boston City Council to advocate for changes in the budget for most of my life, and I am incredibly humbled to be on the other side of it now, here to listen to you, to make sure that you have someone who is paying attention to not only your needs, but your vision for the city of Boston. So thank you all for coming out, and I am excited to move into the amendment process so we can make sure that this budget is reflective of what you need in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. You're absolutely right. This is the people's budget. We all say it. I think this is a time for us to not just listen. There are a good, I don't know, maybe 40 people here in the crowd. And I know that you've been working relentless. We're listening. It's not just we're listening, but when it comes time to how we vote, right, on these budget amendments or how we support the community and listening to exactly what you want, especially when it comes to participatory budget, especially when it comes to mental health response, crisis response. So I wanted to make that very transparent, because then when we go into the working sessions, there's one tomorrow at 10 a.m. I want you all to be the witness to understand that this is a power that we do have. We can move funds. And so hopefully my council colleagues are going to be in support of some of the amendments that I've already proposed, and looking forward to that conversation. Moving on to our testimonies, we have Candace Gartley.
Good evening, councilors, neighbors, and friends. Oh my God, Mallory, that's a tough act to follow. But I have no babies. I have to actually leave here right after I speak to you and pick my daughter up at the airport. It never ends, being a mom. So anyway, today I am here to support the current efforts by the Better Budget Alliance to increase the currently allocated amount of $2 million in the city budget to fund participatory budgeting. And while I'm not on the front lines and I'm not fully versed in the detail around this, I bring a perspective and some examples of my time in Dorchester and working through processes that include the participatory budgeting process and experience successes through it. So that's why I'm here to advocate for it. So this is my first time testifying about the budget, even though I've lived in Codman Square for 36 years, and I currently work in Fields Corner, now going on 10 years as the executive director of All Dorchester Sports and Leadership. So since I'm new at this, I'm interested in finding out how residents and organizations advocate for proposed budget line items. So I can tell you from personal experience, the park adjacent to where I work in Townfield and live, I sometimes feel, recently underwent a community involved process to upgrade the playground at Doherty Gibson Park. It was a very valuable and fulfilling experience for me personally, since having lived in the area so long and raising my family here, I was able to bring my personal perspective about what the neighborhood valued in terms of community improvement. This past winter, once again, through my membership at the Fields Corner Crossroads Collaborative, I was involved in a community participation process of a feasibility study for the park, which was led by the Chief of Environment, Energy, and Space, Chief Mariama White-Hammond. Once again, it was a very inclusive and empowering process. And I felt that the community members who participated, our experience was respected and taken into account during the process. The project will begin in another few months and will include several meetings with the community to solicit their ideas. This is good government, but funding to ensure these processes must reflect an understanding of the importance of community participation in order to ensure that there is community inclusion and consensus on efforts going forward. And the funding amount does not reflect that. We know that community participation works. Many of us can point to successful outcomes in and around our community. But reasonable financial support is needed to provide the necessary infrastructure to allow these planning efforts to become reality. In closing, I'd like to stress that there should always be community participation process embedded in any project or suggested improvement in our neighborhoods, and the budget to allow these projects to reflect the ideas put forth by the community should match the anticipated improvements. The $2 million budget amount is woefully inadequate to bring fruition the ideas born of the people who live in our neighborhoods in concert with the guidance of our city government, and I urge you to consider this request. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Candace. Next, we have Benji Maurer. Thank you.
Hey y'all, I'm Benji. I'm a resident of Jamaica Plain. Not here affiliated with anyone, but I am here to advocate for a few things. So first off, I got this flyer when I came in from the Youth Justice and Power Union. I just want to really echo all of their demands. I think they're all really reasonable and great. So thanks to the youth here for putting this together. The $40 million in participatory budgeting, which I'll talk more about. $2.6 million for a community mental health response, which is honestly like such a tiny amount. It's hardly a few staff. To have a meaningful impact, it should really be a lot more. $6 million for youth jobs. Again, there's so many youth in this city, and they all deserve good paying jobs and a start to their careers, and then truly affordable housing. So I just want to appreciate those folks, and I'll just speak for a moment about participatory budgeting. So in a former career, I was in a worker cooperative, which, as some folks know here, it basically means the workers have both an economic stake in the business, and they also get to have a stake in the government's one member, one vote. And so, I can just speak firsthand to that experience of being both a worker and an owner in a business is a highly engaging, really amazing way to sort of have agency in your life. And so I think it's just a completely different experience than working in a regular company. And I think participatory budgeting for the citizens of Boston could be an experience like that if it were a meaningful amount of money that could actually impact the environment and the lives of folks in the city. $2 million, I mean, you all know this. I mean, you're controlling a budget of many hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just a ridiculously tiny amount of money. And I want to also remind you all that 63% of people who voted in the last election voted for charter reform, voted for participatory budgeting. They're all your constituents. it's an insult to the intelligence of the people of Boston to give $2 million to this budget line item. And I think it's also an insult to your constituents who overwhelmingly supported this. So I'm worried for all of you who I supported and voted for. And I really think you all should consider appropriating at least $40 million for participatory budgeting. I just think, again, it's not just about the actual money amount, it's also about what participatory budgeting would do for people's engagement in the politics and the work of the councilors of Boston, right? Like, if you want an engaged citizenry and you want a people's budget, you want people to participate in the city, participatory budgeting is a great way to do that. And the $40 million that folks are asking for really is just the start of people's engagement with the city in a more meaningful and deeper way. And so I think it's not just the money that's going to sort of impact communities, but it's also a sort of like step change in engagement in the city and the business of the city that I think would really yield a lot of dividends in the long run for a more participatory, more engaged citizenry in Boston. So I just implore all of you to consider all of that and to increase the budget for participatory budgeting. And in terms of where it comes from, that's up to you all. That's kind of your job here. So I hope you'll think creatively about where that money can come from and appropriate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Benji. Next, we have Carmelo. Frigging dot rat forever? No, that's where you go, Carmelo. Thanks, Carmelo. Sorry. Appreciate the patriotic sentiment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to state your name, your affiliation, and testimony?
Yeah. My name is Carmelo Howell. I work with the Youth Justice and Power Union, and I also live in District 7. I demand that Mayor Wu and the city councilors divest $115 million from the $395 million police budget, instead of increasing it by $10 million and including a real cap on overtime spending, investing $40 million in participatory budgeting, and also investing in community mental health crisis response, youth jobs, and affordable housing. The city must decrease policing in the police budget because police only exist to keep the people down and harm our communities. In 2020, Mayor Michelle Wu committed to cutting the police budget by 10%, down to $373 million. In 2021, she committed to reinvesting police funds into the community and agreed in the youth forum that we should decrease the number of officers, but now she is actually increasing the budget from $395 million to $405 million, and there will be more police officers. This makes me kind of angry because year after year we've been demanding police cuts, and finally, after we got a shred of success for the past 2 years, it feels like that's being taken away from us. The city council and mayor must make sure that the new police contract also cuts the police budget instead of increasing it, especially when the contract might add costs to the police budget. It is unacceptable to increase the budget by $10 million. For the second year, the city council has the power to move money from the police budget to investments that actually keep our community safe. I urge the city council to cut $115 million from the police budget and move those funds into things that will actually help our community, like mental health crisis responses and affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmel. Melissa Alexander? Hi, Melissa.
Hello, good evening. My name is Melissa. As always, I'm not affiliated with anyone. I am from Dorchester, and my phone is going to die, so I texted my testimony to my other phone. So let's see. So as far as docket number 0767, line items 32, 33, 37 to 41 related to Boston Fire Department, equipment and facilities. During the salad days of the Be Together mandate, I got a rare chance to hear the voices of Boston municipal employees who I would only otherwise encounter in emergencies. Boston Fire Department District Chief Neil A. Mullane Jr. reminded us that the Boston Fire Department is the largest municipal fire department in New England, providing mutual aid to at least 40 towns and cities and elsewhere in New England. Thus, the budget allocations of the Boston Fire Department don't just impact constituents of Boston proper, but the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the whole region of New England. In that regard, I would like to draw attention to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 123, Section 35. Firefighters already have an impossibly difficult and quite literally backbreaking job. In no uncertain terms, they are truly heroes, committed to rescue in so many contexts. And a rescue-oriented approach is precisely what is needed to alleviate and address the current humanitarian crisis at Mass and Cass. Therefore, I am advocating that the Boston City Council pass a home rule petition to allow Boston firefighters to serve as qualified petitioners pursuant of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 123, Section 35. Furthermore, firefighters ought to replace law enforcement officers as qualified petitioners. The Boston Fire Department headquarters is currently located in the heart of Mass and Cass. Boston firefighters are also trained as paramedics and respond to various medical emergencies. Go to any Boston firehouse and you can not only request naloxone to reverse an opioid overdose, but perhaps attend a community training at said Boston firehouse. It's all right, I'm loud. Currently, under Massachusetts General Law, only a qualified petitioner may request the court commit someone to treatment under Section 35. These qualified petitioners are police officers, physicians, spouses, blood relatives, guardians, and court officials. As Councilor Lujan noted at that infamous Brawl in the Hall City Council meeting on August 31st, 2022, you know the one, there is a requisite prudence, tact, and caution that must be exercised when considering sectioning people who continue to suffer in the throes of addiction and debilitating mental health crises. As Boston firefighter Shane Houlihan, I'm mispronouncing that, noted at a February 2022 rally at the Paul Revere statue in the North End, Boston firefighters are on the front line of rescue respective to the collateral of pharmaceutical companies' lies and corporate greed as they constructed the current opiate and polysubstance abuse crisis apparent every day in the corridors of Mass and Cass. It was shameful what the current mayoral administration and the Boston City Council allowed the Boston Fire Department employees to go through, respective to mandates, as well as the members of the public whom you all literally serve. I urge you all to actually earn those salary raises that you all unanimously voted for and pass a home rule petition to replace police officers as qualified petitioners and add Massachusetts firefighters in their place pursuant of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 123, Section 35. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. J. Laris or J. Rallis Mercado? Am I saying it correctly?
Buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Mi nombre es Jairalis Mercado, soy madre de 2 estudiantes en las escuelas públicas de Boston. Vivo en Roseberry, también recibí mi educación en las escuelas públicas de Boston.
Espérame, déjame leer esta parte. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jairalis Mercado. I am a mother of 2 students at the Boston Public Schools. I also live in Roxbury, and I also received my education at the Boston Public Schools.
Hace un tiempo atrás participé en un detalle presupuesto participativo donde como ejercicio de práctica, elaboramos un presupuesto con $1 millón para mi escuela, asignado un montón para cada servicio que ofrecemos en las escuelas que queremos y merecemos. Por más que le buscamos la vuelta al ejercicio, el dinero no era suficiente. Lo que me llevó a pensar fue, ¿puede quitar maestros para asignar tecnología? ¿Puedo poner interpretación y quitar clases de artes? ¿Puedo aumentar la limpieza y reducir las comidas? Entre otras cosas, vimos que no es posible quitar un servicio básico para poner otro.
A little while ago, I participated in a training about participatory budgeting. There, we did an exercise, and we talked about how to create a budget, a $1 million budget for my school. And we're trying to figure it out, how the amount and what services we wanted to offer in our schools, what do we want to see in our school, what do we deserve. And we were trying to figure it out and just going and round, and we saw that there wasn't enough money. And that led me to think, what can we do? Should we reduce the number of teachers so we can have more technology? Or should we have interpretation and then not have art classes? Or should we increase cleaning services and reduce food? Among these things, we saw that it was not possible to take away some basic services to put others in place.
Por eso cuando hice la distribución me frustré y no pude terminarlo, pues el montón que tenía no me permitía tener los servicios que realmente necesitaba para tener resultados, éxitos en las educaciones.
And because of that, this type of distribution that we were trying to figure out, I got frustrated. And I couldn't finish this because there was just so many things that didn't allow us to keep the services and the things that we really needed to keep in order to be successful in the education.
En el día de hoy me encuentro aquí para levantar mi voz y decir que necesitamos más dinero en nuestros presupuestos, pues todas las escuelas deben tener instalaciones seguras y limpias. También me encantaría que BPS enseñe otros idiomas. Con lo que aprendí, estoy entusiasmada con el presupuesto participativo que viene a Boston, como una forma en la que yo y otros residentes podemos proponer estas ideas que tenemos para mejorar las experiencias de los estudiantes. Por favor, aumenten la financiera para el presupuesto participativo para que podamos dar vida a algunas de nuestras ideas. Muchas gracias.
So today, I found myself here to speak up and to say that we need more money in our budget. We need money in our schools because our schools should have safe places, clean schools, and also I would like to see that BPS can teach more languages. Well, with everything that I've learned, I was excited about the participatory budgeting, that it will come to Boston. It's like a way that the residents can propose ideas and to improve the experiences of the students. So please increase the funds for the participatory budgeting so that we can give life to those ideas that we have. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Yolaris.
Thank you.
Next, we have Carla. Is this Stovall?
I wasn't sure how many you were going to be here. I have 3 copies we can share. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla Stovell. I'm a proud member, homeowner, and business owner in Dorchester neighborhood of Boston. I'm here giving testimony on behalf of New England United for Justice, which is a grassroots organization who cares deeply about participatory budgeting and how we can ensure community has a voice in this process. Before I begin, I want to thank Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson, the Chair of Ways and Means, for not only hosting this event, this hearing, but for accommodating the community and ensuring residents have access to the space. Holding hearings only in City Hall is not a good show of supporting residents to being involved, and we need to continue to be creative and host hearings in our neighborhoods. We also thank members of the Ways and Means Committee for their work on this overall process around the budget. United for Justice is a grassroots community-based organization in the city of Boston. We represent over 700 members across Dorchester, Mattapan, and Hyde Park, as well as the Roxbury neighborhood. Our mission is to educate and empower leadership from communities who often feel ignored. Our community is a strong block of renters, small property owners, youth, elders, and voters from Black and Caribbean neighborhoods who all care about the current state of our neighborhoods, what the future holds, and who want to play a role in building collective solutions within the city. We are also members of both Right to the City, Boston, and the Better Budget Alliance. This is important because we know our work is more powerful when we align with leaders from across the city and we support the efforts we are leading in these spaces. We are here to urge the City Council and the Mayor's Office to provide substantial resources into the new process around participatory budgeting. We want to see the budget include and support 1% of the city's budget towards participatory budgeting. This is a $40 million pot of funds for residents to have decision-making power over solutions our neighborhoods need. There is a proposed $2 million on the table for this process. It ain't even enough. It ain't even enough. That's like going to the corner store with 25 cents and you know everything in the corner store costs $2. It ain't enough. During the 2021 ballot referendum, United for Justice was one of the many community partners that worked to engage, mobilize, and activate voters around the change to the city charter that made participatory budgeting possible. We knocked, we phone banked over 85,000 households and engaged over 8,000 voters in our neighborhoods, specifically in Dorchester, Mattapan, and parts of Hyde Park. We got involved in this campaign because we believe in the leadership of communities leading the vision and solutions in their neighborhood. We strongly believe residents need a seat at the table on where and how resources are redistributed throughout the city. So that means that no one decides what's going to be in our neighborhood, don't talk to us, and then put up a big, giant block of concrete in the middle of our street with no trees on it, okay? I'm talking about Milton Ave and Edson Street. They didn't tell us what was going on. They just did it. We strongly believe residents need a seat at the table on where and how resources are redistributed throughout the city. An overwhelming number of residents supported the vision of balancing power between the mayor and the city council over the budget, but also as a pathway to building a process where residents are more involved. Voters have spoken, and we are now being tasked with how this will work. Participatory budgeting is not new. We have been moving this process with youth over a $1 million budget for youth voices to guide how resources are spent for youth programs, services, and needs. The proposed $2 million dispersed across neighborhoods is not enough for residents to get creative around the solutions we need as communities. Participatory budgeting allows us to look at alternatives and needs from the community perspective. We are talking about youth services, workforce development programs, housing, improvement of parks, addressing mental and physical health issues, and so much more that affects our community. It creates a pathway to for democratizing our budget process, where residents like me have a voice and can work with my neighbors on bringing our ideas and solutions to life. As taxpayers, as voters, as community, we are counting on all of you to take action on this matter and ensure participatory budgeting is created in a way that provides community what we need in order to continue to advance our city and neighborhoods forward. During the height of COVID, we saw the power and strength of communities stepping up to fill in the gaps where the city could not do so on its own. Food deliveries and coordination, housing resources, protecting workers, and more. The impacts of COVID are still with us. It's no longer a pandemic, but it still is an issue. And the power of the city is how communities are engaged and continue to provide guidance, wisdom, and the energy we need for projects and solutions. Thank you. I trust our wisdom. Our wisdom now and fund participatory budgeting at 1%. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Carla. Next, we have Favor.
Hello, my name is Favor Ejames, and I'm here with YJPU. I'm here to demand that $6 million be taken away from the $405 million that the police currently have in the proposed budget. With this $6 million, we can make youth work from September to June instead of November to May. And we can ensure that youth coming in for another year and taking part of more responsibilities get paid more. Youth should have the right to work for 10 months without having to experience a long gap from the next time they can work. The gap can be very detrimental to many youth workers because some of them need the job to take care of themselves and their families. Youth jobs also create a safe haven for many kids and develop their life skills. Things like leadership, communication, time and money management skills are all things that youth can learn from their jobs. I also don't understand how 6,000 summer jobs were promised, but only 4,500 people were hired. There needs to be a better way for youth to be informed about these opportunities, and an outreach team needs to be hired as well. The application process as a whole needs to be more simple. It's too complicated and extensive for youth to complete, and Success Link takes forever to get back to people about their documents. This is why we are advocating for $6 million to be added to the youth job budget and for City Council to support this decision so that youth can be connected with their community for a longer period. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Favor. Next, we have Joaquin Lombos.
Hello, City Councilors. My name is Joaquin Lambos, and I am a student of Boston Latin Academy and a member of Youth Justice Empowerment Union. In 2020, Michelle Wu committed to cutting down the police budget by 10%. In 2021, Michelle Wu committed to reinvest police funds into the community, but what is she doing now? To our understanding, she is increasing the budget from $395 million to $405 million. We know that she means well, but instead of investing this money into the police, we could invest it and use it to fix issues in our community. We still need $6 million more to make youth jobs fully available year-round, as well as making the process of getting jobs easier for the youth. Many youth have no idea how to apply for Success Link, let alone know how to get a work permit. I know kids my age that need to work to provide for their family and need to work just to survive in general. Making $15 an hour is simply not enough, and is simply not enough if you are not working year-round. We want Success Link to hire more outreach workers for support to help these youth with getting Success Link jobs. We would also like a community audit to figure out why we are not reaching the number of jobs the mayor is promising. I would like to ask the council if they have any knowledge to why this is happening. The City Council needs to invest the police budget into community issues. Last Thursday, I asked if there is an update on what it was exactly spent with the $10 million increase and why it was raised. I would like to know if there's any update on that or if this is something still unknown.
Thank you, Joaquin. Can you repeat the last part of your question again, or the full questions?
Say that again?
Yeah, can you repeat your questions again?
One of my questions was, hold on.
Why the increase, and then the second part?
Why the increase, and like, what was it exactly spent on, or if that's something we know? Like, yeah.
The why, mostly in personnel. So about 7 million increase in personnel. And I think the why, the justifications has been, to pay officers on the ground. So increasing numbers of officers. And then the why is, as we heard it from BPD, is that they believe that Boston needs more cops.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Becky Pierce.
Hi, my name is Becky Pierce, and I live in Codman Square, Dorchester, in Councilor Worrell's district, District 4, where I have lived for about 50 years, most of my adult life. I have been to a lot of these hearings over recent years, and it's great to see a full half of the city council here. Usually there's 1 or 2 people, or 3 or 4, and then most of them leave. So I really appreciate you all being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for that, and coming to Dorchester, which is great. So I'm here tonight to speak in support of the Youth Justice and Power Union, YJPU's demands, and cutting the police budget to fund the other things that they've been talking about. And I hope that you all got this flyer that shows very simply what they're asking for and what I am supporting. And the first thing is that, as the recent speakers from the young people have been pointing out, is that last year the council all supported cutting the police budget and moving some of that money into urgently needed community things that actually make us safer. And this year, Mayor Wu put $10 million, she raised it $10 million above last year's budget, and it needs to be cut well below last year's budget if we really want to make our neighborhoods safer. I don't feel safer because there's more police on the streets and more sirens going up and down outside my window. I feel safer if I know that when people have a mental health crisis in our neighborhood, they will be responded to by people from the community who are sympathetic with their needs, and not by a police officer who's going to shoot them. So I will feel safer if the young people in my neighborhood all have plenty of jobs, and year-round jobs that are well paid, so that they can continue their education, so that they can help support their families, which a lot of them are doing, and so that they can have what they need. I would feel safer if people in my community had truly affordable housing. And I know this is a priority of the mayor, but she should be putting money into that instead of more money for more police officers, because people not having housing and being housing insecure and becoming homeless is a large reason why we have crime and things that aren't safe in our neighborhood. And it's the main thing that most of the people, you are not safe if you are evicted from your house because you can't pay the rent and there's no affordable housing in the city. So that should be a much bigger community safety thing than the police budget. So I think that's all I need to say. And just make sure you get one of these, everybody get one of these before you leave, because I think that the young people over here have a bunch of them for you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Becky. Is it Janaya Destiny?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Shania Destiny Noeli. Sorry, allergies. I am with YJPU. I demand that you take $6 million from the police budget and invest into youth jobs. This is important to me because and not only means for the teens that can't make it to the city council hearing, because most of us youth that need a youth job, and it's not enough for all of us to have a youth job, because it's not enough. We need more money for the budget for youth jobs. These youth jobs, believe it or not, help some of us from toxic homes, off the streets. These youth jobs, instead of jobs not caring about us teens, yes, it's a youth job, but this job actually cares about our mental health, saving us from toxic homes, teaching us knowledge, caring about our community. And, it helped me because I don't know where I would be at if I didn't have a youth job in 2021 from Team Empowerment. And now I'm with YJPU, and I'm learning more knowledge, and it's helping me with my mental health and staying in touch with my community and making money. It's way better than jobs that don't care about us and this working employees for teenagers. This is way better for youth jobs for teenagers instead of regular jobs than for our mental health and our families and our homes. Thank you for listening to me. I know my voice is important. I hope y'all know as well. I'm just really slow right now because my asthma and my allergies, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Janaya. You did awesome, and Councilor Mejia will tell you all about her asthma and allergies too. She's doing good today. Next we have Rita Lara. Is it Lara? Is it Lassa? Sorry, Lara? Okay. Señora Lara?
No relation?
No, not really. I have many cousins.
Who put you up to this?
I'm Rita Lara, and I'm from East Boston. And I also work with Maverick Landing Community Services. We're also a member of Neighbors United for a Better East Boston. And the Mutual Aid. We have a very tight-knit group in East Boston. And we support each other. And we come out to meetings like this because it's really important to really share what's happening on the ground and what we can do to make things better. And we are also a member of the Better Budget Alliance. And, we've just come out of and are still in a very difficult time. And over the last few years, people really came together. And people wanted to be problem solvers. They wanted to help. They wanted to take care of people. They wanted more access to resources that would help them to address some of what they saw happening on the ground in communities. And now here we are, kind of, coming out of this difficult time. And people have really voted for participatory budgeting because they really want access to, beyond wanting access to resources, they want to be a part of really rebuilding and recreating our fabric in our community. And there's never really been a more critical time to invest in that. We are at a difficult point in time. Rebuilding is really important. And what an opportunity I think you all have here to put $40 million into participatory budgeting. Imagine being able to go to the communities you represent and say, hey, there's money on the table for things that you want to bring into your community. I have never had that. I've been in community work for a long time. I don't believe I've ever had that opportunity to really to really sort of have a community of people in the room and say, wow, Look at what we can do. What can we do? What are your ideas? If there's ever, if there's any opportunity to really break through apathy, get people really involved, make people feel like they belong, make people feel like they're part of the solution, it's to really put the money into participatory budgeting. There's nothing that's going to engage people more. And we need our civic fabric reconstructed, and we need it stronger, and we need it now more than ever. So I really urge you to fund participatory budgeting at $40 million. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Annie Logo. Do you want to close the statement?
Vamos a usar la Justice Language. Mi nombre es Enilda Lobo y soy de Nube, Vecinos Unidos para un Mejor East Boston, en East Boston, ¿verdad? Estoy con Rita también en una colectiva de organizaciones que estamos tratando de arreglar el mundo, pero nos está haciendo bien difícil cuando no nos dan el dinero que necesitamos.
My name is Enilda. I'm from Neighbors United for a Better East Boston. And I'm also with Rita, and we're working with a lot of organizations trying to figure it out how to create a better world, but it's really difficult when we don't have the money that we need.
Creo que para Nube es difícil llegar a la comunidad y venirles a ustedes cuando la comunidad decidió que sí al participatory budget porque lo ganamos en East Boston y anduvimos tocando puertas fuertemente para pasar el presupuesto participativo y la comunidad dijo que sí, los votantes dijeron que sí y ahora todavía seguimos diciéndoles manden mensajes a su concejal para que lo aprueben. Es un insulto y un irrespeto a la comunidad votante.
So with that organization, Nube, it's really difficult to go back and talk to the community when they voted and decided that they wanted participatory budgeting. We went out, we knocked on doors strongly. We got the community, they voted yes. And then it is embarrassing to go back now, ask them to text, email their city councilors. It is an insult and it's a lack of respect to the constituents or voters.
Creo que esta audiencia no debería de existir si de verdad la alcaldesa y los concejales de verdad estuvieran con la comunidad. No estamos diciendo que no están haciendo nada, pero este es algo importante para nosotros y por lo mismo debemos de respetar la decisión de nuestros votantes. Yo anduvimos con Fair Share Amendment, me imagino que nos va a tocar la misma cosa y no entiendo por qué no se respetan los votantes. Creo que por eso es que nuestros votantes dicen, no creo en la política, no voy a votar porque no se cumplen realmente lo que se anda diciendo en las calles. Así que exigimos y les pedimos y solicitamos $40 millones, que es lo mínimo que deberíamos de pedir, aunque yo estoy con los jóvenes que dijeron 150 millones. La verdad no es nada para el presupuesto de la ciudad. Si le quitan a la policía, eso no es nada. También le pueden deducir a las calles, que veo que tiene más de 200 millones. Entonces pueden mover esos montos, que es las necesidades que realmente tenemos. Entonces creo que nuestros constituyentes, nuestra comunidad se verá beneficiada con ese dinero. Así que exigimos los 240, no vaya, estoy exagerando. Quisiéramos, bueno, pero creo que no es imposible. Pero pedid y se os dará, dice la Biblia, ¿no? Entonces, quisiéramos 40 millones ahora y quizás el otro año 240, pero vamos a analizar con la coalición que necesitamos.
So I feel like this hearing shouldn't exist or shouldn't be happening. That, you know, it's very important that the mayor and the councilors should know that it's very important for the community. The community voted for this, and they should respect what they voted for. And we also work a lot with the fair share amendment, and I'm assuming we will do the same thing again. So that's why a lot of voters don't want to get involved with politics. Or they just say, you know, I don't like politics, I don't want to vote. Because, you know, we go out in the street, we tell them we're going to do something, and then we don't do what we say. And that's why I'm asking you, I'm urging you to please give 40 million to the participatory budgeting. And I also agree with the youth, what they're asking. And I think they were asking like 150 million, and which is good. But you should take money from the police department. Also from the streets. I think like they have 200 million for the street. You can take that money out of there. Because the community, they have needs, and those needs need to be met, but we need the money. And she was making a joke, and she made a mistake that she wanted 240 million, but maybe not possible this time, maybe next time, but sometimes the Bible says you ask and you will be given. So for now, I'm asking 40 million, and perhaps we'll talk with the coalition, and next year we'll ask for 240 million. Thank you.
Quiero, lo último que de verdad, y fue lo primero que iba a decir, pero les quería exigir primero, mentira, que quiero agradecer esta reunión y a esta hora, porque de verdad es cuando nuestra comunidad puede estar aquí. Cuando hacen reuniones a las 9 de la mañana, a las 2 de la tarde, nuestra comunidad es bien difícil participar. Así que quiero agradecer a ustedes por tomarse de tiempo, aparte que les exijo, pues perdón, pero creo que es importante que a esta hora nuestra comunidad funcione, al menos en East Boston. Me gustaría verlos así, a ustedes en East Boston, una audiencia igual, no para pedir los 40 millones, para otra cosa que es para bailar también, pero no solamente para exigirle. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. And lastly, which I meant to say this first, but I want to appreciate all of you for coming here and having this community meeting or hearing at this time, because this time works for the community. Instead of having hearings at 9 a.m. in the morning or 2 p.m. in the morning, which people cannot participate. But yeah, I would like to see you in East Boston, to come there and not to ask you or to urge you for the 40 million, but for other things, and maybe to dance or something.
Gracias, Annie. Gracias. Muy bien hecho, gracias. Willa Bandler. Willa, if you just allow me just 30 seconds to allow Councilor Mejia for a closing statement. She has to step out to another event.
So thank you so far. Your words are not just falling on deaf ears. Trust me that now that we have this alleged power, I plan to work alongside my colleagues to make sure that we execute against it. So you have my commitment on doing just that. As always, I've always shown up for my people because you know how it goes. So I am incredibly encouraged by not just the turnout here, but by the organizing, because this is what it looks like when democracy is in action. And now it's an opportunity for my colleagues to not just listen, but to actually do something about it. And I'm looking forward to that disruption. And I'm sorry that I have to go to another event. That's why I was here early, but I'll be listening in on the tape. And really do appreciate Councilor Anderson for creating space and really understanding that the people's budget and the business of the people has to be done in community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Ms. Willa?
Yeah. Hi, so my name's Willa Bandler. I actually live in Walpole. I don't live in the city of Boston, but my two kids are college students who do live in the city. Yeah, I just wanted to say, this city, I've lived a lot of places. This is one of the most unequal places that I've ever lived. There's just so much disparity. There's so many people who have so much, and then there's so much need. And it's just really hard to see. And so I did the math while we were sitting here. The $2 million, which I agree with everyone who said that's kind of a slap in the face, that would be basically $3.06 per resident of the city. So to tell people whose needs are so great and so unmet, like, here, you can have $3, like, you know, that's not going to do. We need solutions, and having more money for the police doesn't solve it. The problems that are in communities can't be solved by more punishment. You can't solve, I know Terrence Coleman's mom, Hope, a little bit, and so I've, been with her at various things over the years, and that, she just keeps saying, and there has been no justice for her son, but she keeps saying, look, I called because I wanted him to get help. So we spent money to kill her kid when we could have spent less money to not do that. So why would we spend more money to keep doing the wrong thing? Why would we? That doesn't make any sense. We've all heard better suggestions for how we could use the money. We could. They're all all kinds of things I'm not going to repeat. You've all heard what we could do with the money. You all know what we could do with the money, but it just can't keep going to things that are actively making it worse. And the community knows what they need. So if you put those decisions in the hands of the people who see, every day what they need and what their neighbors need, then that, it seems like that couldn't help making things better. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, First Parish or Meeting House Hill, I know that you're really old, but is the heat working? Is that? It's warm outside. Thanks. Well, get cozy, people. Next we have Ms. Fatima Ahmed. And I do know how to say good afternoon in Arabic. Sabah al-khair, right, Fatima? Yeah. Oh, mashallah. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fatima. I live in Dorchester in District 4, also with Muslim Justice League. And I know most of you know a lot of what I have to say. One thing I will say, if you don't know this about me, I don't like to lose to Somerville or Cambridge. And folks have talked about participatory budgeting. Somerville.
Are they winning?
Somerville is starting their participatory budgeting this year with $1 million. We have to put more money into it, right? We are so much bigger, Dorchester by itself, bigger than Somerville. So if they can do that, right, and if here in Boston, we had this groundswell to create participatory budgeting, this was one of the things that the city of Boston committed to in 2020, right, was giving the city council power and giving the community power over the budget, and it's time to deliver on that. As folks have said, we need actual money to be given out this year. I'll also say, I'm always going to support the demands for more youth jobs. I'm someone who has had to work since I was, a teenager to support my family. I wish the place that I grew up had anything like Success Link. It's really such a powerful and beautiful thing that this city has. And I'm so glad that YJPU is consistently, demanding more for our young people. I do want to say, not just participatory budgeting and youth jobs, as folks have talked about, but moving money into the mental health crisis response. This is another thing that came out of this city council in 2020, including our current mayor is one of the people who said that we needed to do that differently. I don't know why she's not actually funding it this year, but I will tell you, I have spent all of 2023, literally since January 4th, and our organization has put most of our energy this year into supporting a family in Cambridge whose 22-year-old son was shot and killed by the Cambridge police when he was suffering a mental health crisis. And someone saw him suffering and called 911 hoping to get him help. He should be turning 23 here in 2 weeks, and he's not, and we're figuring out what to even do with his family in that moment. And it's happened here in Boston time and time again. Folks mentioned Hope Coleman. She's been showing up for this family. It doesn't always end in this kind of tragedy. And I can't even explain, how devastating it has been to so many community members, to his best friends, his coworkers, his parents, his cousins. It doesn't always end in death, right? But we know that almost every day folks are dealing with crises, and it often ends in more trauma for them. We know that as a community, nationwide, we are facing massive mental health crises. We see it for our young folks in schools. We know that this is such a significant issue. We know that we have to do it differently. And this is a moment where we can actually start this model, right? That Mayor Janey, put half of the money for these new alternatives into a community-led process. And now, those folks have presented a model, and we need actual money to just get it started, right? To even just let it, start the process and actually get things off of the ground. So I really hope that the City Council will deliver on all of these things that came out of the council, right? These are conversations that have started here, and we really hope that you all can deliver on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fatima. I cannot. Come on down. Oh, you don't know who it is, right? Oh, okay. Oh, it's a little girl. Oh, very nice. Okay. Then it's Khalil, is your turn. Oh, tu hija escribió eso. Oh. Well, maybe she wants a budget cut too, okay? Yes, what are we doing about PB, okay?
Hi.
Hi, Khalil.
It's really cold. I don't do well in the cold, but I could tell you how important this is. Once again, my name's Khalil Howe. I'm part of YJPU, Defund Boss Cops, and I live in District 7 in Roxbury. And I'm with the demands of YJPU and many other organizations in this room to divest $115 million from the $395 million budget for the Boston Police, instead of increasing it, which Mayor Wu's trying to do. Investing in participatory budgeting, community mental health response, youth jobs, and affordable housing, and to freeze all hiring for Boston Police. I believe that the city must put the police budget into real community needs. We've created a community enforced by police instead of by care and development. Youth need to be prioritized, mental health needs to be prioritized. Moving towards a community that has enough access and support to denecessitize police should be everyone's dream. And Google said denecessitize isn't a word, but I feel like we can move forward with that. Yeah. But yeah, there's so many things that we can cut from the police budget to fund these community needs, like equipment, supplies, and contracts, as well as freezing the hiring of the new police. I feel like I don't even need to get into the nitty-gritty, because I've been on this podium so many times. I've seen so many people come up here and spit all the facts, tell all the stories. You know, like, I've seen tears, I've shed tears when we, like, last year's budget, when we didn't get what we wanted after going to like 163 budget hearings. And it really breaks my heart to see that City Council really just can't come together and step into their power that, you know, people have fought so hard for, you know, to really support what people are talking about here. And it's like, how many more facts, how many more stories, you know, what'll make y'all care? And I'm obviously, like, you know, there are people who support us and there are people who don't. But it's like, people are here, it's 8:30, it's cold, you know, people came from work. Like, it's not because people, like, are like rah, 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 like, F the police, like, for fun. Like, you know, it's real things that are happening in our community. We don't have another option. The structure isn't set up to complain in a different way. Like, I feel like people need to do their jobs. People need to step into their power. I mean, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Always inspiring to listen to you, Khalil. Next, we have Carlise Mañana.
She got a stomach ache, so Malaysia will be.
Awesome. Thanks, Malaysia.
Hi, my name is Malaysia Fleur State, and I'm going to be reading Carlise's testimony. So it starts. Hi, my name is Carlise. I am a Latina female living in Roxbury, and I'm here representing YJPU. I wanted to talk about the comments of the police commissioner. I heard Commissioner Michael Cox said something along the lines of, "We are looking to diversify our community and our force." At the city council meeting, about the raise in the police budget. Increasing the diversity of police departments does not lead to a decrease in police violence or misconduct. Some studies suggest that police officers of color are just as likely as white officers to use excessive force against civilians. This suggests that the problem is not just about the race of the individual officers, but rather about the practices of policing. The focus on increasing police diversity can distract from the bigger issue of police violence and systemic racism. By emphasizing individual solutions, such as hiring more officers of color, people will overlook the need for structural changes to the criminal justice system, such as reducing overall police budgets and investing in community-led alternatives to policing. I demand that Mayor Wu and the city councilors pass a police contract that decreases the police budget. Say no to a budget or contract that gives more money to the police.
Thank you. Next, we have Ella Simone. We'll circle back. George Lee. Is Daniel ready?
Yeah, he's gonna read Alice and he's gonna read.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Danny, and I'll be saying Ella's testimony. Hi, my name is Ella Simone. I am a 15-year-old student attending Dearborn STEM Academy. I am advocating for a $6 million divestment from the Boston police budget and reinvestment to youth jobs, specifically 10-month to year-round jobs and higher paying rates. I'm advocating for this because the current span for youth jobs is too short and the off-season gap is too long. Currently, there is no funding for youth jobs from November to April/May. This is a large gap. This large of a gap makes it hard for some youth who have to provide for their family. This is why we are asking for 10-month to year-round jobs. Furthermore, additional funding will also help kids get the understanding of the workforce at an earlier age. I'm also advocating for higher paying rates because everyone deserves a livable wage regardless of their age. This is why I'm advocating $6 million for youth jobs.
Hi, good evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for staying. Thank you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, for working with us to make sure this hearing could be in the community. And also Councilor Worrell and Fernandez-Anderson, along with some of the folks who left, Councilors Lara, Luigi, and Mejia, y'all have shown up. Y'all voted with us, including in the last budget vote last June, to override some of the mayor's vetoes. So I really appreciate that. Councilor Flynn, although we don't always agree, I do appreciate that you're here tonight listening. And I guess just as a small note, because I've seen y'all talking about, were there really 163 budget hearings? This fight has been going on for 19 years. And to get more money for youth jobs, community needs. It's been going on for 8 years to decrease the police budget. So maybe Khalil has a count of how many budget hearings he's gone to over those years. So I have a process question and then some comments and then some budget questions. One process question, at some point, if it's possible to kind of understand the timeline of when amendments are filed and how many people have already filed them and if there's a deadline for them and when they're being considered. But in terms of what the council's role can be and what we want, yeah, especially the 8 of y'all who voted with us last year at the end of June, you're still here this year. It takes 8 votes to override the mayor's veto. And I say that not as a city council versus mayor type of thing, but as Khalil said, in terms of the city council's power, it's meant to be a check and balance system. Like the mayor puts out a budget and that's her job, and your job is to make amendments. Her job is to accept them or reject them, and your job is to override them or not. But, over those 20 years, we barely got any increases in youth jobs until the past couple years, and y'all helped with the historic increase last year. So you do have that power, and we're asking the 8 of you to help again to make sure we get what we need for the community. And in addition to voting, I would say, if y'all can work closely with us, and sometimes it feels like a guessing game, like, will you vote for our amendments, how it would be? And, Councilor Worrell, Fernandez-Anderson, the other folks who left, if y'all are able to stay in regular contact with us, to look at, and give us honest answers. I know sometimes politicians feel like you have to say, I can't commit, but we need commitments and we need answers and honesty. If you're like, I can't vote for this much, but I can vote for this much, or I can't vote for this cut, but I can vote for that cut. Please work with us so we can make this right. But yeah, as y'all heard, just to give some analogies of what we want. For youth jobs, we want full year-round jobs. We don't want year-round jobs, in quotes, that go from November through April. If y'all were city councilors and you couldn't get paid for September and October and May and June, that probably would mess with y'all's finances and lives, and that's what happens to young people. And it's easy for now. Success is giving out grants to organizations. They should just let the organizations be able to do year-round jobs. I think there's been talk of pay raises both for city councilors but also your staffs. And we try to treat young people right in our organizations. And I know at East Justice Power Union, we pay people above minimum wage, but we have to do that using our own money because SuccessLink doesn't let us. And we're asking for the flexibility. Let organizations pay 15 or 16 or 17 an hour. Councilor Louis-Jean has brought that up as well, and that would be really good to have that flexibility. Folks have already talked about the need for affordable housing and how key that is, and for mental health crisis response, which was led by community members who met to figure out how can we respond in a way that keeps folks safe. And participatory budgeting is really important because as much as we try to engage in this process, at the end of the day, it's never going to be as powerful as if you really let the community vote directly on the budget. So really urging y'all to put in that 40 million. So in addition to the process question of when the timing of the amendments is happening, some budget questions. I forget if someone from OBM was able to make it tonight or not to be able to directly answer any budget questions.
Someone is here, I think, but just taking notes.
I see.
And we do not want to put him on a spotlight because they've instructed that he's here to take notes. And the person who is appropriate to answer the questions is probably Jim or Johanna. June 1st, as you know it, and I'm sorry that you may not be able to make it because that's during the day. We will have Capital Part 2, which is encompassing the public testimony as well.
Got it.
So I'm happy to answer a lot of the questions there, but send them in my email and I'll do that.
Great, and I'll just let you know so you can take notes and bring it back to your folks. One question is in FY22, the permanent employees line item for the Boston Police was 315.7 million, but the actuals was only 307.9, so they were budgeted a lot more than they actually spent, and just seeing if that's the pattern this year and why that was. And I've said this before, but it just, youth jobs gets under such a microscope of like, oh, y'all couldn't use this money. Are we going to be able to hire the right number of young people? We don't want to give you extra money, but the police are not actually spending what they're budgeted, so why don't we decrease their budget to reflect that? Krishma's analysis made it seem that there's $3.5 million extra in contracts, equipment, supplies. We know last year, the City Council voted on $3.1 million in cuts, so there's a lot there that could be moved around in the amendments. There's that $7.9 million in personnel. And also, again, for OBM, understanding that $81 million collective bargaining reserve, how many unions does that cover, and how much of that might go to the police associations? Because that seems like a lot of money when a lot of contracts are settled. Also knowing how much in health insurance, pensions, other costs there are for BPD, because those are in a different part of the budget and they're not separated out, so we think they're actually getting more than 405 million. And then there's a weird couple lines on page 354 of the police budget where it calculates how much the employees are getting, but then it says there's 28.8 million other, a negative 1.9 million chargebacks, negative 12.3 million salary savings. So it's just hard for us to know exactly how much the police are actually paying their employees, and if we could get data on that. And then finally, I think last year the mayor said she could save $1 million by postponing the police classes by a month. So if the police classes were postponed by a year, or if they were postponed by part of a year, how much savings would that be? And I go into all these details mainly because, to kind of go back to the theme I was saying before about if we could work closely with y'all to really look at what amendments to file and understand what your thinking is and what works for you or what doesn't. We're down to get into these details because we think like transparency is really important. Like in the past, when we hadn't been able to see all these numbers, it's hard to move the money around. But the more we know exactly where the dollars lie, then we can make sure they're going to the right places. So again, Councilor Wara, especially know we've met with you about IDP. Last year we talked about, caught each other in the working sessions, but hopefully can continue to work with you and Councilor Fernandez-Anderson and the rest to really make sure money goes to those needs, participatory budgeting, youth jobs, mental health crisis response, truly affordable housing, and not this huge increase for the police. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Daniel, did that count for you already going? Okay, so next we have Daniel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for agreeing to spend such a significant amount of your time with us today. My name is Danny. I'm 15, and I'm a freshman at Boston Latin Academy. I'm here today with YJPU. Like my peers before me have said, Mayor Wu promised to reduce the police budget by in 2020 by 10%. She promised to reinvest in the community she pledged to serve. Yet the increase we saw from FY23 to FY24 to the FY24 budget was 10 million. We were doing so well, gradually reducing the police budget. So why did we go back by such a significant amount? The average price for a one-bedroom room in Boston is $2,700. 115,000 people live below the poverty line, and Boston natives are constantly getting pushed out due to the increase in housing costs. The way in which income limits are set for affordable housing has so much room to improve. The range doesn't target the majority of the people who are actually in need due to the way AMI is calculated. This type of funding can go directly to the housing for people who are actually in need. This type of funding can go directly to improving the system. We can reduce the amount of people who have to turn to crime just to make ends meet. The foundation for a lot of things starts with the place you call home. Let's build that instead of putting unnecessary money into the police system that already holds such a large amount.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Sarah Garada. Is Sarah here? Oh, hi.
Hi, my name is Reverend Dr. Sarah Gerard. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the senior pastor at Old West Church, located in Kinsey Box District, and my wife and I are residents of Dorchester in District 3. To be clear, I'm anti-police. Not just defund the police, like all of it. It needs to go. I'm a firm believer that there's no good cops in a white supremacist system, a system that at its core is traced back to the Carolina slave patrols of the 1700s, whose singular mission was to establish terror and oppression, and whose mission we see today in our streets in Boston. The motto of the police is to protect and to serve, but what the police do is protect themselves, and what they serve is upholding white supremacy and violence. A budget that reflects an increase in policing is not a reflection of what people want. It's a reflection of what the police want, which, of course, that's what they're supposed to do. That's all that they're serving, is their own interests. The police are not currently serving us, and they only serve to further to traumatize, abuse, and harm our communities. $2 million is a joke, and it's an insult. It's less than MGH gave the West End organizations, respectively, as part of their Cambridge Street project, which is basically just inconvenience money, while MGH does construction on a street. So the fact that individual organizations were each given over $2 million apiece by a hospital, when the city thinks $2 million is an adequate, just distribution of funds, is deeply insulting to all of the people who have worked for more. As pastor, it's probably not surprising that I might quote scripture. So here's the thing. The prophet Isaiah sets forth a call to cities. When we pursue justice, when we uphold equity and dignity for all neighbors, for the city, the prophet writes, you will be called restorers of the breach, restorers of streets to live in. What a call. Restorers of a city that we love and cherish and hold dear. We are to create a city where all persons can live, can have affordable, dignified housing, free education, dignified health care. Thriving does not happen when we have weaponized, militarized police. We can be better, and you are our leaders. You are the ones that we have asked to represent us in leading us into that new vision. I'm sure you face difficult challenges and expectations of your time and your power that we are not privy to. However, I urge you to listen to the hopes and dreams of these young people, for they are truly our leaders. My hope is that one day we will have zero police budget, and we will restore these streets where no further generational harm and abuse can happen to anyone, including the children. We can and be better. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I'd like to first give my council colleagues an opportunity for a closing statement, and then I will go into giving you some information about schedule, the amendment process, what I'm planning to do in terms of proposals on the floor, and then we'll wrap up. If there are any final comments, we'll take that, and then we'll wrap up. Councilor Worrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again to the public. A lot of rich information. As I said early in my opening statement, the community has a solution. So a lot of questions that I'm going to go back and find out information on. And I hear the youth loud and clear that we need more money in youth jobs, mental health and social workers, and making sure that we're tackling the root causes of poverty and making sure that we're ending those cycles through the investments that we're making. So thank you to the young people in the crowd for letting your voices be heard, and thank you to everyone who has showed up. And please continue to advocate, show up to these public information, and spread the word. We need to make sure that we fill rooms like this to make sure that everyone in our communities participate in this budget cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Worrell. Councilor President Flynn?
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, and thank you for bringing us together tonight, an opportunity to listen to the residents of Boston about what their priorities are. I was glad to be here the entire time to listen to this conversation. Thank you for everyone for coming out tonight, but I also wanted to let you know that I'm also committed to, I know we didn't hear many voices from our seniors, but I also think that's also an important voice in our city, services for our seniors and persons with disabilities as well. Certainly a priority for me, certainly a priority for many of my colleagues. I also want to, again, say thank you to Councilor Fernandez-Anderson for her important work and leadership as Ways and Means Chair, and I also want to say thank you to my friend Chantel from Mayor Wu's office that is here with us taking notes. So thank you, Chantel, for your important leadership and for being here with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. I'd like to thank once again Christian, Mallory, Candace, Benji, Carmelo, Melissa, Jai, Ravis, Carla, Favor, Becky, Janaya, Rita, Annie, Willa, Fatima, Khalil, the baby that signed up, Carvis, Ella, George, Daniel, and Sarah. In terms of the next steps, as I mentioned, June 1st, we will have capital budget part 2, which is essentially just asking more questions from the administration in terms of what's going to happen. Also, there'll be an opportunity for me to come to other communities and do more of a budget workshop. If you'd like for me to break down these presentations, I'm happy to go. We can organize it and I can come and break it down. There's so many ways of us doing this. We can go live on all social media platforms. We can organize in a different way. We don't necessarily have to exhaust our administrative staff that's been so kind to accommodate. We've had at least 2 in community and other testimonies outside of regular hours. So I appreciate you all, Shane, Ethan again, Karishma, Michelle Goldberg, and of course Chantel Barboza, and the Office of OBM. Thank you so much for being here and taking your notes. So beyond the notes, the next steps, when I present amendments on the floor, basically tomorrow, we will be doing a working session. This will require the councilors to put their amendment suggestions on the floor in the working session. And I'm not necessarily going to allow all of them because they may be duplicates, and some of them will highly contradict with what I believe should happen. And so those things, I think, or I can put them all on the floor Some things I can put in conjunction with, for example, an amendment to increase in housing, an amendment to increase in youth jobs, put those together, and that's not necessarily how it's going to go, but just an example. Or I can do 3 amendments, or I can do 1 amendment. It will depend on how I think counselors align and how successful I think I can be. And I will ask them to vote on every single amendment, every single proposal that I put on the floor. I think that you'll see that a lot of amendments will go as individual amendments to make sure that we are documenting counselors and how they're voting on it. I will encourage the community, and my office will be advertising a whole lot on getting as many people as you can. Is it June 8th? June 8th? To be there for the vote. It's going to be huge because I'm not going to take it easy on the amendments. We're going to go full throttle. We're just going to go full speed ahead. And if they vote no, they vote no. You will find out exactly where people stand. If they vote yes, they vote yes. You will find out where people stand. And I think that's important. I did, with my council colleagues' support, I did pass an ordinance that will require the City of Boston for us to create an amendment to get a position to add to council admin staff that will actually have to populate all of our voting record. In addition to that, what we're filing, how we're voting, if it's an ordinance, if we're having hearings, what we're chairing, these schedules, so that way you could just go to our page on the boston.gov website and actually see a record of what people are doing. So hopefully that helps. The amendment last year that I made to add Karishma, our budget analyst, is proving to be a really good one, and she's doing an excellent job in breaking down this budget. But I especially appreciate the fact that we can actually look at aggregated data. The advocates, of course, you guys come here with these stories, and you, as you said, spend your time and your blood, sweat, and tears, and you sacrifice a lot to be here, and I appreciate you. I know that these stories are real, and they are connected to real life experiences, and I appreciate all of your love and compassion to helping families outside of your own, and hopefully that I can do whatever I can. Please reach out to my email or to the Ways and Means email as well to let me know how I can use my power and my position to work with my colleagues to get us where we need to get. All right, other than that, also the PB budget, happy to file an amendment to that ordinance, happy to change that number. It was ridiculous, I agree. Everybody knows where I stand. The glove's already off. It's not a big deal. It's not us versus Mayor Wu. It's not me versus Mayor Wu. It's, hey, we disagree. And we got to do what we got to do. So if the organizers, again, I know that we'll be meeting soon, if we want to do that as soon as possible before the budget vote, so that they're not saying it only says 2 million. If we can amend it prior to that, that'll be good too. Any final comments before we close? Since this is an interaction. Yes?
I just want to make sure this is right. You said you're not grouping things this year. You're gonna go one by one in each part.
I'll couple it if I know like it's something simple and everybody's on board. Right. But then if it's something like participatory budget and it's a big ask, right? People can amend on the floor. They don't have to vote no. They can say, I'd like to file a motion right now to amend that. Not 40 million, like, whoa, T-money bags, like, wait, we can't do that. But maybe we could do 20, and that's up to the counselor, to the other counselors. But if I do one at a time, it will put everybody on record on where they stand. So it's not like one big bucket clump of different amendments. It's like, well, I said no because I don't agree with just this one thing. So it's important that I work with advocates and community to figure out how to couple those amendments or not. So I'm opening my office and saying, let's do that, let's be strategic, and let's figure out how we can do that.
And one more question, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
These working sessions, will they be on record, like on file, like, and they'll be recorded, or we have to go there and watch?
Tomorrow, it's on record, and it's all on TV, it's all live. Yes?
Yes, good evening, my name is Lisa, and I'm among the older people who didn't speak. One thing, because I appreciate everything that I heard you say. I should tell you that 55 years ago, I was with a group called Young Adult Action Group in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I was a 17-year-old youth counselor, and I'm doing exactly what you guys are doing now, youth advocate, working with my peers in the Lower East Side of Manhattan and Bed-Stuy. And so I just sat back and listened because I wanted to see how far we advanced. And we're going a long way because you're speaking more freely and a lot less concerned about what people might say. But what's most interesting, you're saying the exact same things we were saying then. We have the same challenges, the issue about police protection, about education, and about jobs. My first encounter with the police in a negative way, I got arrested in the protests trying to get jobs for youth to work during the summer. The first time I met Edward Kennedy, he was at a meeting in Washington, D.C., where we're demanding the students in school have jobs as a way to offset their challenges in the street. But in a way, if you were working 15 hours a week, you had some resources, you could help your family, and you go further. I'm so pleased to hear you today. I'm so pleased with the things that you've said. And I want to say to your colleagues who are not here, this process is not for or against anything other than reason. That as a person who served as a police officer for a little while, but at least understands it's not about whether you like the police or don't like the police. The question is, what's the efficiency model? What do we get from what we are producing? If we need more money, then it should show in the activities that take place. If we're spending more money as we have increasing, we should see the benefits of what we think the process is. The crime should be going down. You know, we should have less problems in terms of interaction between the community and the police. We should have more things going on. But we've seen some efficiency models that do not include giving more money to just policing. And the mistake that we make is because they're police officers, this goes back hundreds of years to centurions. You know, it doesn't make them correct because they're centurions. Matter of fact, in this day and age, this person who came through the process, we're not demanding as much as we were in the 60s and 70s. When I came on the job, the Quinn Bill and everything else, we had more officers going to school, learning, and more interacting with the community. They're less interactive. We got a lot of people with GEDs, and they're making decisions about healthcare and mental health and public health and safety. And that's not a slap on the police, that's on the process. So if we were funding money, if we needed more increase, it should be to talk about how we make them better work with the other groups and organizations around, like the Public Health Council, like the other agencies of the city, so that we have less negative interaction. So thank you, young people, for speaking. Read more into what goes into budget, how that affects your quality of life, and don't ever be afraid because you're on a path, and the path is we have a better city when we work together. It's not anti-police, it's pro-community. And so when the police lived in our community, and some of us remember the days when the cops were our next door neighbors, we had a little bit better interaction and a lot less, calculated misaction. And so I just want to say, thank you all for being here, and thank you, councilors, for the opportunity, and thank you for those who stayed. It's not because you were like good councilors, but you braved the cold.
Yes. 2 more questions, George?
Yes, I know we're mindful of time. Just knowing that first draft amendments were due already, are there other deadlines this week or coming up?
Sorry, speak up a little louder.
Knowing that the first draft amendments were already due, as we're working with councilors to put in more amendments, just knowing if there's any more deadlines this week or next week, like are there a couple of different deadlines that we should know about?
Yes, there was a deadline last Friday for the first draft and a deadline for tomorrow to come prepared with their amendments. If they don't fill out the form, at least that they're prepared to put their amendments on the floor or on the table for discussion. And so tomorrow, hopefully, we're having conversations about at least finalizing the first draft. And then I'm giving them another week so that they can actually give me their final draft. And I've been sending them emails. They have the forms. They know exactly what they're supposed to do. I think folks are just been busy with other things, you know, redistricting, coming back, and just a lot of meetings. So I'm trying to give a little bit of grace, but we do have to wrap up soon, so I would say 1 more week. You're welcome. No more questions? Okay. Yes, Miss Linda?
Good evening. This is more for our youth. And as a parent and listening in the community about Success Link, it's great to have, but there are glitches in it, and it's been going on for beyond 2 to 3 years.
Yes, yes.
Okay, whoever programs it, find somebody who can program it to make it more feasible and easier for our students.
Thank you so much, Miss Linda. All right. Going once, going twice, okay. Is there someone in the back? Yes. Where? Oh, yes, Daniel.
Do you want to go first?
Yes. Hi.
I just want to say to the young people, you all keep speaking out, keep saying what you believe in, don't stop, because you're doing it.
Thank you, Queen.
Thank you.
Just to add on to this discussing point, the UI is hard to navigate around. People often don't get responses, so that system is complicated. Signing up turns a lot of people off. They don't want to go through the process because it's so long and there's so many bugs. And I feel like, I know that Boston set apart a large amount of funding to like fill some youth jobs, and like a lot of that went blank. I feel like one of the reasons why was because of how the system is. It's not efficient, and it can be.
Yeah, very insightful. Thank you so much. George, I feel like you're like my unofficial intern. When is the YE or YEO? What is it? Wednesday, May 31st, we'll be meeting with YEO and YE. But I would love to file a hearing just so we can talk about it separately if we don't get to the bottom of it in that hearing as well. Yes?
This has to go, this is in regards to the youth and working. The time period that we're saying they can get a job for, they waste 2 weeks in the beginning of the summer, and they waste 2 weeks at the end of the summer. And it doesn't make any sense because most of them are already out of school by mid-June, and they don't start working until July 5th this year, because July 4th is a Tuesday. So they go to work after July 4th. And so they waste 2.5 weeks sitting at home doing nothing. And then they finish working sometimes the first week in August, sometimes the second week in August. We've still got 3 weeks before they go back to school. You know, here again, 2 to 2.5 weeks just sitting at home doing nothing. And it doesn't make any sense. So I do agree with the youth saying, hey, we need to be able to work longer than the 7 weeks that you're allowing us to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think it's a conversation. I think I'd love to try to help to give you access to the administration, get a meeting, and let's talk about it. Maybe it's just a community listening session where we just go and talk about all of the kinks in the system and make some suggestions, do it in there and figure out what we can do to, maybe it's policy, but maybe is it policy, is it program, is it funding, is it technical? We should talk about it. I'm happy to follow up. And saying that means I'm gonna follow up. Absolutely. So, okay, we have to get out of here by 9. Power to all the people. You guys are amazing. You're my favorite team to, the youth, I mean, not the older folks, to testify. And I really appreciate you. Keep up the good work. So proud of you, and see you soon. We're adjourned.